You're listening to the Heart and Hustle podcast. We are your hosts, Evie McLeod and Lindsey Roman, here to come at you with another episode today.
Today we are talking about a few things that you need to do to write really openable emails. Kind of made up that word as we went along.
We all get emails from businesses, and we all, as businesses, probably are trying to write emails that get opened.
Or thinking about it in the future.
Yeah, we're going to talk about subject line, open rates. Actually, I don't think we're talking about open rates, but we're talking about a lot of things today that are going to be spicy that you want to know to open those emails and to get your customers and clients and potential future clients to open those emails.
Yeah. So whether or not you actively have an email list and are wanting to improve your open rates and click-throughs, or you are thinking about having an email list sometime soon and you want it to be good from day one, listen to this episode. It's going to have a lot of good stuff in it. And honestly, there's a lot of good stuff in this episode, even for not email, even just marketing copy in general.
Well, because a lot of the strategies that we utilize with email copy can be used in other, like podcast titles.
Yep.
Hooks for your Instagram captions.
Yep. So just listen. Basically, the bottom line is just listen to this episode.
Shut up and listen. Let's go. Hey, I'm Lindsey Roman.
And I'm Evie McLeod, and we are family and legacy-focused serial entrepreneurs and the founders of the Heart University, a business education company with a mission to help you thrive in your business and life.
Welcome to our Entrepreneur Cocktail Hour, where business and marketing strategies meet faith, real talk, and raw and life-changing conversations.
At the end of the day, we are all in this together, figuring out how to navigate the ups and downs, the messy and the beautiful, and everything in between. This is a community where you can come as you are, get inspired, and walk away equipped to build a legacy-filled life.
You're listening to the Heart and Hustle podcast.
All right, welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to your office.
My office. I don't know what I was going to say.
Today is going to be a really fun conversation. We're talking all about writing good emails that people actually want to open and consistently open. So let's dive straight on in.
I think we have 7 points today.
Yeah.
We have 7 points for you. So buckle up.
Let's
grab your chai or your coffee or your wine, whenever you're listening to this, and let's go.
Let's do it.
All right. So number one, the first thing when you're thinking about writing an email for your email list
that people actually open.
Yeah, that people actually open is to avoid spam triggers.
And you might be like, oh, that's great. I would love for my email to not go into spam, but how do I do that?
Right. And yeah, Evie kind of clarified that. But like, ideally, when we're writing emails to our list, we don't want them to go into junk,
ideally,
spam,
that is
promotion. Yeah, we just don't want that to happen.
No, but not in an ideal world. You just don't want that to happen.
You want your emails to go into like the main inbox for a subscriber, right?
Yes.
So here are a couple ways to avoid doing that. Avoid all caps, especially in the subject line and at the beginning of an email. And this is gonna be a little tricky, and it's might go against a couple of points that we might make in a little bit, but especially if you were like a very energetic, bombastic personality like us.
Hand raised.
Yeah, like us. Like, especially for Instagram captions, like I love a good use of all caps.
Yeah.
But strategically, when you're writing emails, try to, especially when you're trying to evoke emotion and you're trying to evoke excitement in a subject line, you want to like almost put all caps, but that triggers like, because, you know, think of like a spammer or like a scammy person that's like trying to get you to do something that,
like
I don't know.
Phishing.
Yeah, like a phishing email. They're going to write all caps in the subject line. So don't do that. And then don't write them in like just like the intro of the email.
Yeah.
And try to avoid, like, it's not like you can't ever use all caps, but just in general.
Be very selective and very minimal with it. The next thing is going to be don't use excessive punctuation, specifically like a ton of exclamation marks.
Which also goes along with all caps.
Which also is very difficult for us.
Yeah.
But that's another trigger that can tell your email system that it could be spam and send it to your spam inbox. So make sure you're not like doing a subject line.
In all caps with all exclamation points?
Like 10 exclamation points.
I would say even like 5.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the science of that. If like, if I use 5, it won't go, or if I use 10, it will go. But like,
just again, be conservative.
Does that mean that you can use 1 exclamation point?
I've used at least like 2 or 3 on our subject lines.
And it's been fine.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you tell us, listener, if you're
have you gotten our email list?
Anyways, the next one is to avoid spam words like free, bonus, guarantee, discount, sale. So like things that, ironically, again, if you're trying to sell something, you might want to be using.
Yeah.
But when it comes to subject lines and especially the intro of your email, you want to try to avoid that because, again, it just triggers to go to spam.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into this in a little bit, but try not to make every single email that you send your list a sales email.
Yeah.
Which we have past email episodes or episodes on our podcast chatting about like email list strategies and techniques, but you always want to nurture before you sell.
Yeah.
And so just that's not
general
in this
rule.
point, but it's around it.
The next one is adding like too many symbols or emojis or links that can also trigger your email system to think that it's spam. So for example, a ton of dollar signs, a bunch of like percentage signs or like tons of emojis, especially I feel like the email like systems usually read subject lines, especially as like a big part of like, is this spam or not? So not having like a ton of emojis and a ton of dollar signs and whatnot in your subject line will really help keep it out of spam so people can actually read it and open it.
Yeah. And then the last tip with avoiding spam triggers is use your own domain. So for me, like my email is lindsey@lindseyroman.com versus my old email was mrslindseyroman@gmail.com.
Yeah.
The reason for that is if you have a Gmail account or even like Hotmail or whatever else it is, those are free. And so spammers can more likely, send out emails from things like that. Whereas if you have an email from your own domain, like lindsey@lindseyroman.com, I have to pay for that.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's just like a step above that kind of solidifies and tells Google, oh, this is probably a more legit email because it's coming from like an actual domain versus just something that anybody could get for free.
Yep. I love it. Okay, so that was number 1, avoiding the spam triggers. Number 2 is going to be utilize hooks in your subject lines. So we're going to kind of touch on this a little bit, but the first like 5 words, like think through if you're sitting there holding your phone, you're glancing at your emails on your phone, usually you're only really seeing like 5-ish words of an email subject line.
Yeah.
That's the only preview that you get. So those first 5 words have to be like catchy and really intriguing and capture your attention and make you want to open the rest of the email.
Yeah.
If they're not, if it's something like, once upon a time in a world not you're like I'm sorry.
Who's gonna put once upon a time in
I don't know. I'm just thinking like something that holds absolutely no information, absolutely no clarification of what is included or what's being discussed or whatever. Like you're just immediately going to be like, oh, okay,
right?
Not a clue. I'm passing. Like move it to trash.
Yeah.
So those first 5 words need to be catchy, need to be intriguing, something that they can see and immediately be like, I know what's included, or I'm intrigued to figure out what is included.
Well, and this is the tip that I would also say applies to more than just email subject lines.
Absolutely.
This could be blog posts, podcast titles. We try to utilize this a lot if you just scroll through our podcast titles, you don't want to completely like bait and hook somebody of like, oh, we're going to do this thing that's going to get them to click on the episode. And then it's about something completely different. Obviously you don't want to do that.
We try to avoid, especially I feel like on the podcast, we really try to avoid coming anywhere near clickbait.
But
I feel like it's such a rare exception, and it's something like the episode where we talked about the downshift of the heart. We titled it like the end of an era,
and then it said the Heart University is
changing.
We could have said ending,
but it was not ending.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
That's absolute clickbait.
But the end of an era is like
it was the end of an era.
Exactly.
But it was honest clickbait. Yeah. And I feel like most of the time we do something like clickbait. 3 tips to 10x your revenue or something, and it's the info inside is actually related to that, but we strategically chose something that was very searchable, and we're getting off topic. The point is...
Well, we're arguably still technically on topic because the point being is your subject line is a hook.
Yes.
And so you utilize all the same strategies that you would use for a hook on an Instagram caption, the first line of an Instagram caption, on a blog post, on like a Pinterest subject. That's not called subject, but I can't remember. Title, a Pinterest title, or like a podcast title. Like you're utilizing, or even a YouTube video title. You're utilizing wording and phrasing that gets people's attention and either like is a dramatic statement. Like an example could be goodbye forever. Like that you could have a subject line to your subscribers that's like goodbye forever. They're going to be like, wait, what?
And then inside it's like, it's time to say goodbye forever to burnout. And it's like a freebie that they download to figure out burnout. But like, that was hooky.
That gets them clicked.
Yeah.
That didn't make sense.
But we knew what you meant.
Yeah. Another example could be, we almost pooped our pants and you might too.
That's actually one we used in the last couple months.
That's a legitimate.
That's one of our subject lines on one of our workshop sales emails.
Which, again, I would be like, oh, whoa, I'm clicking on that.
It captures people's attention. We almost pooped our pants and like goodbye forever. Those I feel like are some really good examples of really kind of like, wait, what? Like, it creates this desire to figure out what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah.
But there can be some that are so catchy and intriguing because you want the answer of what's inside. Something like, do you want to 10x your bookings? Open now. Yeah. And that's not necessarily like intriguing or clickbaity in the sense of like
shocking,
like shock and awe, like what is going on.
But it's something that I want to know.
Yes. And it's intentionally, strategically like positioned to speak to a frustration, a pain point, an excitement, a desire of your ideal audience that makes them want to open it.
Which we have a bajillion episodes on why you need to identify your ideal client. And this is obviously one reason, because you're crafting copy that hits on their pain point specifically.
Yep.
That's actually a good podcast episode. Want to 10x your bookings? Listen now. Who?
I feel like we've had like a title similar.
I know. I'm just having a moment with that. Okay. Another one that our good friend Jai, we keep bringing him up on the show, but we love him and he spoke at our last conference. Ironically, I don't think I'm on his email list, but our social media gal, Val, is. And she said he sent an email one time that said so in emails, you can obviously put your subscribers' first names and there's like a code to do it, but you can also put them in the subject line.
Yeah.
And so she got an email from him one time. I believe that the subject line said, Val, stop effing around. And he said the actual word. And if you got an email that said that.
And that's very Jai, if you know Jai. And like,
I would open so freaking fast. And again, that's if you want to curse in your own brand, that's a you issue, or like that's a you decision.
You issue.
but the point being is it got her attention.
It immediately made her open. And I feel like most of us would get an email like that and be like, wait, what? What?
And you could still use that principle without cursing. Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could say effing, or you could just say.
You could not even cuss, which would be my preference.
I was trying to think of if I were using that exact line, what would I replace effing with?
Like messing. Quit.
Lindsey, stop messing around. I don't know if I would open that.
What if, well, I don't know. Well, that's not idea. You get the idea. The point is to your subject line, in my opinion, is probably the biggest part of getting people to actually open your emails.
Yep.
And then what's inside needs to kind of reinstate that, which we'll go through some different things, but just know that your subject line is actually so important in your emails, and do not slack on that. Do not get lazy with that. That is what is going to consistently boost your click rates for new subscribers, because your value in your emails could be awesome,
but if no one's opening them,
if your subject line is just like consistently dead and nobody wants to open your emails, then your value inside is going to waste. So just keep that in mind.
Leads into the next point, I guess, which is to utilize preview text. So again, we haven't even opened the email yet. The preview text, if you don't know what that is, it's open your inbox right now. Don't do this if you're driving, but whether you're on your phone or your computer, open your inbox. The subject line is like the bolded subject, and then the preview text is like before you open the email, it's still on the column of the email, but it's just like in normal text. It almost looks like what is written in the actual email.
Which sometimes it is.
If you don't
put preview text, usually it gives you the first couple of sentences of the inside of the email. And I think that's a setting too.
I feel like it's not even the first, it's like the first like 10 words. It's not that much.
Yeah. Which I think that's a setting that you can put on like your Gmail or your iPhone like mail app or whatever, of whether or not you want to see preview text from inside the email. But utilizing the preview text
as someone who's sending the email, like from your email service provider.
Yeah. So it's basically choosing strategically that it's not going to be like this really catchy subject line of like, we almost pooped our pants and you might too. And then your preview is like, hey, insert
Barbara?
name. hey, Barbara, we hope you're having a wonderful Monday. And that does not catch their attention when they're glancing at it without opening the
subject line
email.
might, but
the subject line might, but the preview text of just like, hey, Barbara, how's your Monday going? Is kind of like, okay, that doesn't hold my attention. Yeah. Whereas I think the preview that we did was for that one, the exact one was, we almost pooped our pants and you might too, ... And then the preview text was, the Heart Workshop is coming to ... And that was like immediately the two of those combined were like a power couple that was just like, I have to figure out what.
Well, because it also, that preview text gave, because for that one, that subject line is shocking, but it doesn't actually.
It gives no like
context.
No context.
For what actually is in the episode, but then the preview text did.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, wait, what? It's about the heart. Wait, I want to go.
And it's like you pooped your pants because, and I might, and it's going to, where? Like, where? That creates that, like, I have to open this and I want to see what's inside. So the preview text can be so good paired with the subject line.
Well, and something else that you can do is almost create your subject line and preview text in tandem with each other to almost like be a question answer, or even just like
a two-parter
so that it almost is meant to be read together. And obviously your subject line should stand alone, even if they don't read the preview text with it. But an example of that could be...
This was also from what our workshop sales emails. There's exact
Can you tell that we're fresh off of this? And so that we recently wrote these. But from 3K to 18K months, learn how Danielle transferred her business with the Heart Workshop.
Transformed. But yes.
What did I say?
Transferred
is what I definitely meant to say. And then the preview text said, and this could literally be you.
Yeah.
So it's, again, it's like that goes with the subject line of like, wait, what? She did what?
And we also intentionally knew that subject line was longer. And so most likely somebody reading, especially from their phone, was not going to be seeing that entire subject line. So they would most likely see something like from 3K to 18K months, learn how. And then the preview would be like, and this could literally be you, which was enough combination that even though it was a longer subject line, we knew that the first 5 to 7 words and the preview text were like a power punch that we're going to get people to open that email.
Which, when you're thinking about subject, we're talking about preview text, obviously, but like I think you said it earlier, I just want to hit home this point. When you're writing your subject lines, make sure like those first, like you said, 5 to 10, not even 10, 5 sentences or 5 words in that phrase is the most important part.
Yep.
I mean, we do that with podcast episodes too, but.
Yep. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so preview text, utilize it, utilize the heck out of it, pair it with your dang good subject lines. And then the next thing is going to be make it short and to the point. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I see in general with marketing copy in general, but especially with email marketing, is people utilize it almost like it's another blog post, especially if it's like something that's more
storytelling based, or
storytelling based, or I was even going to say like a newsletter where you like, you're not necessarily, it's not like a sales email, so you're kind of, going around this like it's value filled, and so therefore you feel like it should be like this long block of text, and you kind of like do this whole story and it's like this long thing. People are not going to read that. We have way too much being thrown at us in today's culture. Way too many emails in our inbox.
We're overstimulated.
We have way too many, like, if you're sitting in line waiting to grab your Starbucks, or you're at a doctor's office or something, you have so many pulls on your attention that it's like, should I go check my social media? Should I respond to this email? Should I, whatever. People are not going to sit there and read a blog post via email form in that situation. They're not going to read big blocks of text and like roundabout answers and information.
Even if I'm home, even if I have time, I think our brains in American culture, not even America, like our brains naturally are going to look at something, even if I have all the time in the world, if it doesn't intrigue me. So if you've already not done a good job on the subject line or preview text and I've somehow opened it, if I see a big block of text, we'll get to that in a second. But like when I see just like a long email,
like multiple
and the
scrolls,
first sentence doesn't immediately pull me in, I'm out. Even if I had all the time in the world, I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and waste my time.
Which is why it's important to get to the point, to be short and concise. And we'll get to this in a second, but you can be short and concise while also being extremely engaging, utilizing storytelling, utilizing emotion. But just keep in mind, like, I know sometimes when I write emails, I will go through and I'll write a first draft, and then I'll go back through and I'll start aggressively cutting stuff that's just realistically fluff that does not add to the storyline. I'll shorten a sentence down.
It's like, how can you say something in the most compelling way in the shortest way possible?
Yeah. And I think
to the point faster.
I think a really good rule of thumb is think to yourself, if my ideal customer or audience member or whoever is standing in line at Starbucks or going through the drive-thru and they pull out their phone really quick and this email just popped in, are they going to be able to read this email in the time it takes them to get their coffee and then head on the road? Because if somebody starts reading an email while they're waiting for something like a Starbucks coffee or whatever, and they're like halfway through and then they have to go and they didn't finish it, they're not coming back to that email.
Yeah.
They are not coming back. And also,
unless
like you
you're
said,
like Taylor Swift.
Well, and also, like you said, if it's like a massively long email, in general, they might not even start reading it because they're like, I know I'm not going to finish this. This is way too much time. This is way too much for me. I'm out.
Yeah.
So keep it really short and concise, to the point. Go back through with a butcher knife and chop away at your baby after your first draft and be like, this got to go.
Yeah.
Really look at it through the eyes of, can somebody read through this in line at Starbucks? Does it get to the point? And then also have like storytelling and stuff involved, which we'll get to.
Yeah. All right. The next point goes along with keeping it short and concise. Break up blocks of text. So again, this is a principle that you could use, not even in emails, like use this anywhere, blog posts, Instagram captions, social media captions. We do not, when we see a website even, like anywhere that we see a huge block of text,
we get overwhelmed.
No.
Immediately we get overwhelmed.
Like you could be the president and I won't even actually, I don't care about them. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care who you are. If I'm intrigued by you and you have a big block of text, I'm probably not going to read it.
Yeah.
No, I might do that for Taylor Swift.
I was kind of smirking.
Because her album like prologues that have like, okay, but you're not Taylor Swift.
So it might be the only person that you would do that for.
Taylor Swift is not listening to this podcast. So you listener, I'm not going to do that for you. I'm sorry. So break up your blocks of text. So when you're writing, especially for email, I would say even more for email than almost any other thing.
Yeah.
Like, because on your website, I think you could still handle like 2 to 3 sentences in a paragraph, and then breaking it in an email, I would almost argue every sentence or two.
Well, it depends.
It depends.
It depends on the
more
length.
about what it visually looks like, too. Because I also know...
I would say like no more than like 3 lines.
Yes, that's a better way to phrase it. Well, because also...
sentence length can so dramatically vary.
Here's T.
Yes.
If you're just writing your email copy on like a Google Doc and then you're copying it over, what's the length? So what I mean by that is like, say your sentence is so long that if you just wrote it out, I'm just like writing it out, pretending I'm writing it. If you just wrote it out on Google, if you just wrote it out on Google, that it would go all the way to like the whole page and then naturally go to the next line. And then say you did that for 2 sentences and it naturally filled 3 lines.
Yeah.
But on an email...
iPhone.
What?
On an iPhone.
Well, on an email, what I'm saying is when you copy that over to your email service provider, do you... I mean, I know the answer, but do you like break it? So what I mean by that is you're typing a sentence and then you hit enter before it actually would go all the way so that it's not, is what I'm saying tracking?
No, not at all.
With people?
No.
But you understand.
I understand what you're saying, but
explain it to people so that they understand. Because you understand what I'm saying.
You're saying to make sure that as you format it, that you're actually formatting it for the way that it's going to show up on the email, not necessarily for the Google Doc.
Yes.
Yes.
Because you could write it out and if you don't format it not like intentionally on a Google Doc, it'll go all the way to the however many inches that a page like
basically intentionally do your own line breaks to make sure that it's divided.
Yes.
Okay.
Because again, I think that goes with like when our eye naturally scans words on a screen, if it's long, that's not quick for me to like scan quickly.
Yeah.
But if it's like a short sentence, even if the sentence keeps going, I'll make it like 5 words and then I'll line break and finish the sentence so that it's like shorter and stumpier. Does that make sense? Versus like long and skinny.
Yes.
Yeah. You're looking at me
that
like,
was so technical.
No, but it's important because people don't read like long, skinny.
Yeah, but most people, I think like 80% of people read their emails on their phone.
Yeah.
So it naturally is much, much narrower to begin with.
Yeah.
So you're saying if a sentence is not even complete, when you're writing it, halfway through a sentence, you will intentionally click return?
Sometimes, depends.
See, I would say don't do that.
Why would you not do that then?
Because the formatting depends so much on the screen that people are viewing it from. So somebody could be viewing it from like a full desktop or an iPhone.
Well, here's a way to do it. If you copy that into your email service provider, send a test email.
Yeah, but still you're seeing it from your size screen. So you could be sending something and it could have like 1 word and then have a line break because
I don't think it would have one word if you why would it have one word? Your text would have to be so big.
Let's say that it was you formatted it from like a MacBook Pro. And the way that you formatted it on your MacBook Pro, it ended on like one clean line halfway through a sentence, and then you started a new line for the other half of the sentence. But on an iPhone, it's much narrower. So that one line on your desktop, on your laptop, is technically 2 lines, and it started to go into a third. It was like, and then you manually had clicked return when you formatted it.
So then it looks wonky.
I would not do that.
Okay, then how do we... I've seen you do this, and copywriters like on our team do this, where it's intentionally shorter.
You just do line breaks that are shorter at the end of a sentence. At the end of a sentence. You never do a line break in the middle of a sentence.
That's probably what I mean.
Okay, that's what I would do. That's why I was giving you a bit of a look, is I was like, in the middle of a sentence, you're going to line break to manually format it? No, because then no matter
if it's line break after its sentence.
The end of a sentence.
This is so technical.
The end of a sentence is when you should line break, because that way, no matter what screen you're looking at it on, it will be it will make sense to have a manual line, like a line break, because everything will line up.
Okay, the point
was do a lot of line breaks.
Well, the point is text together doesn't read well. People will skim it.
Right.
Basically, you want to format your emails in a way that you can skim very quickly, or your audience member can skim very quickly. Because again, so thick paragraphs or just like thick, long, big chunks of text are not going to be read. So whether it's a sentence or 2 sentences, I like where you said lines, because that's a little bit more visually like, oh, okay. If it's, well, then that matters on different, like.
Well, that's why I would send a test and view it on both your desktop and your phone to get an idea.
Yeah, but you just said that that's not going to be widespread to everyone.
As long as you're looking at it from a desktop and a mobile, it'll give you a rough idea of like,
how it would
be general
formatted.
division.
Yes. So that way you can see the line breaks, and you can see, is it readable? Is it easy to digest? Another thing that you could do with this is like the point in your paragraph or in your email, maybe bold it or italicize it, make it
like
again.
The main point, the thing that you really want people to see.
Or like make format it with
line.
emojis, where again, like we said, don't spam trigger like with a ton of emojis, but we've done it where we have an emoji for like different points, or if it's a sales email that we're showing a product or something that we're selling and we want to showcase the inclusives, we'll have like an arrow.
Yeah. Or like a finger. The red siren emoji or something, like between like, this is the last time to get 50% off, or
then
whatever.
Again, it's visually breaking it up with like emojis or just bold phrases to like break it up.
It's drawing people's attention to your main points.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, break up your text, make it something that is really easy to digest. Think through your user behavior as a consumer of emails, of, captions, of whatever, and think through what feels easy to digest and something that I actually stick around to read versus what have I seen or gotten that just feels confusing and I can't find where the link is. I don't understand. It's just a big wall of text. I don't want to read it. I walk away. Just keep that in mind. Okay, the next point is to utilize storytelling and emotion. And I think this is probably one of the biggest and best things you can do in your emails and in your marketing copy in general. We love stories. We love stories. We love emotions. That's what is our like bread and butter and our fuels. Facts tell. I heard a friend say this yesterday. Facts tell, stories sell. And it's like facts are so good. Have facts included, especially in your marketing copy, because we make, as humans, we purchase things, we make decisions based on emotions, and we back up those decisions by facts.
Yeah.
That's the psychological, like, bottom line of human buyer behavior, is that we make our decisions based on our emotions, and then we back up those emotions with facts. And if there aren't facts to back them up, then we might choose to back away from that decision. But it's always emotional. Even the people who are...
Emotions lead first.
Yeah, even the people who are not because there's 2 categories of like really emotional and really factual buyers. Absolutely. We lean a little bit harder in different things. Even the factual buyers, the people who are looking for the statistics, the logic, the facts, are still making emotional decisions because we're humans and we make things based on emotion. So keep in mind in your email, don't have just straight facts that are just like, did you know that 70% of blank?
It's like you want to lead people with a story and capture their emotion. So whether that is like a hook that is emotional pulling in, and then you share a story where then you present facts with it.
Yeah.
It's like you want to draw people in and basically tell a story.
But I will say, as I was like, did you know that 70% of whatever? I'm actually, as I'm saying that, I'm like, that could be a really emotional if it was a statistic that was emotional. Like, did you know that, I forget, oh my gosh, I should know this off the top of my head. For my swimsuit company, Evie Swim, I think it's like 90% of adults spend like 90% of their lives indoors or something like that. It's like staggering statistic. And I go on, a lot of my marketing copy is based around like, let's change that. I want people, like, we need to spend more time outdoors. And it's like, how sad is it that we have this great wide world in front of us, but we like sit inside our air conditioned, like stuffy manufactured air houses 90% of our lives.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can use statistics to create an emotional story of like, this is how this impacted me. This is how, here's a story from my life. Here's something like, maybe an email you start with like, can I tell you something really embarrassing? One time I did this and this and this, and I almost completely ruined my business because of it. And that immediately like, let me help you avoid that mistake. Immediately, I want to read the rest of that email.
Yeah.
It's like, there started with a story.
Because it's pulling on emotion, but it's also relatable.
Yep.
And it's a story.
It's story. Because I feel like people love that. Like starting an email and it's saying something like, I'm currently writing this from, wherever I am. And I just wanted to like remind you, whatever. It's like the storytelling aspect. It's not like jumping straight in and be like, once in a lifetime sale this weekend. Like we're like, okay, I'm out. Like there's no pull. There's no intrigue. There's no, excitement. So I feel like that's one of the biggest things when it comes to emails, even the sales emails, but especially like newsletters or value-filled emails. Make sure that there's that human, relatable connection, storytelling, and emotion factor. That was a lot of adjectives. Make sure those are all in there within your emails, because those are really going to get your emails as something that people want to consistently read.
I think along with that, something, especially if you are a personal brand, but I would argue even if you're not a personal brand, try to humanize your copy as much as possible.
Yes.
Like even if I were like had an email from like Kohl's, I would still want them to utilize this. So I'm still gonna, even if you're a personal brand or not, I would still say this.
If anyone is on like TikTok, do you know the brands like, what is it? Is it Ryanair that has like a hilarious marketing team that
Wendy's is like hysterical.
There are like corporate generic brands that are slaying their social media marketing game right now by being a human, relatable, hilarious.
If they do that on email list too. I mean, I'm not on Wendy's email list.
But I'm just saying, if they utilize the same principles in my mind, I would, like you're saying, I would be more willing to open.
Because so point being, utilize slang or casual phrase. Like don't, just because you are a business doesn't mean that you have to be this professional robot.
Especially
where
if you're like
writing like sincerely.
Well, I feel like email, especially because it's always kind of been a more corporate thing.
Feeling. Yeah.
I think as entrepreneurs, we naturally assign like a corporate lingo to it, even more than even other areas of our business, where we feel like we have to be this really professional, really straight-laced person in our marketing and in our email marketing specifically. I feel like today, like, absolutely not.
I feel like me and Evie have built our brand on this principle and this principle alone. Just kidding. We've done other things, but like using slang word that we have genuinely said in person. So like dang or stoked. I don't know, like things like I'm thinking of words that I actually say. Yeah, poop your pants. Like things that I would naturally say in life. And so something that you can do. And again, this principle applies, yes, to emails, but literally to any copy that you ever say ever. Whether it's an Instagram caption, a blog post, a website, paragraph, I don't care what it is.
Type how you speak in real life.
Yes. And then once you've typed it and you think you're done, say it out loud.
Yep.
To yourself, to a friend, to your mom, I don't care who. But if it doesn't sound authentic coming out of your mouth, then you need to change it.
Whatever naturally, because we'll replace words when we like speak it out loud. If we like wrote something and then we end up replacing it, if it would be like sincerely and we're like, thanks so much, like at the end we verbalize and we like replace it with thanks so much, change it.
Make it sound like how you would say something when you're talking to a friend.
Yep.
In life.
Yep. 100%.
Out loud. Verbally.
Okay. The last point on writing emails that people actually open and actually read is to keep it simple. In other words, utilizing like plain text. I think that's a really big one with email marketing, it can be so easy to feel like we need to like fancy it up and make it look a certain way and has to have all this graphics and colors and design. But think about the emails that you get from like your mom or your best friend.
Like if you sent a friend right now an email or they sent one to you, what does it look like? I want you to literally close your eyes right now, not if you're driving, but visualize what an email looks like coming from your mom.
Yeah.
There's
plain text.
There's not a fancy font and header and flashing photo that says sale now. No, it's plain text.
But then I want you to picture an email from JCPenney or Kohl's or what else.
Like something that like a corporate like shop that you are signed up for their email list.
It's like it's really graphically designed. It's like because I think
it feels like a magazine catalog
because that used to work.
Yeah.
And then all of the businesses started doing that, and now all of us are so conditioned to we open that and we're kind of like, oh my gosh, overstimulated. It's too much. Every single sales email, marketing email always has this, and we're drawn back to we want that like. That one-on-one, that down-to-earth friend like feeling connection. And so we really recommend utilizing just simple text on a screen. Do not have it formatted as if it is like a really fancy design email. I feel like there are some slight exceptions to this that we kind of touch on. One of them being if you are in a very like visually heavy field, for example, you are a graphic designer.
Or web designer.
Or something. I think there is a way that you can incorporate a bit of design around it without it feeling like, don't go so heavy that it becomes to feel like a corporate email that's like everyone's getting.
Or if it's like your monthly newsletter.
Yeah.
So less of like a sales email or even like a weekly nurturing email. Say you send an email to your list once a week and it's just like nurturing them.
Yeah.
I would even say that still should be plain text. I think this is more of like if you send an email to your list once a month and it's almost like a life business wrap up, like a newsletter would be, I think that could afford you a little bit more space to like have a little bit more design elements.
Yeah.
That could, link some photos. It's almost like a quote, like literally like a newsletter. If you think of what that would, whether it's in person or on an email, it allows a little bit more flexibility because people understand, hey, I'm not getting sold. There's not like gimmicky,
it's not a sales email.
Right.
So they're like, oh, I'm here. I get to, especially if you're in a visually heavy like field, I'm going to be much more willing. Like one of my good friends, Bree from Brighton Made is a graphic designer and I'm on her email list and she sends out little like newsletters and updates and she's a graphic designer and a dang good one.
And so it's beautiful.
And so it's really beautiful. And I love it because it's a newsletter and I get to open it and I see it.
And if it's designed in a way, if it's a newsletter where there's multiple topics being talked about and it's not just like a story or a nurture email about one topic that links to something, it's like, oh, here's what we did this month and here's my new baby and here's like a freebie that I have that you can get. It's like, it's multiple topics. So that makes more sense for it to be designed with like, blocks or like different things where you can visually see the difference of the topics that you're talking about.
Yeah. I think the one other exception that I would say, which is what we do in our emails, because we do plain text emails pretty much across the board with the heart, is that we incorporate like GIFs. But
I feel like that goes back to the professionalism thing.
Yes.
It's like making it more casual and more like a friend would text you a gift.
Yeah. Or like we'll send out an email.
A GIF.
A GIF, I think, is technically the pronunciation.
I don't care. I will know.
I've been told so many different things in my life that I'm just sticking with what sticking with what I've been stuck with for a while. Yeah, we'll even sometimes include like a photo of us like with our husbands or our families or something for like Thanksgiving and be like, happy Thanksgiving. We love you so much. Like, especially as we're leading into like Black Friday and we're like, we want to nurture, we want to create that like human connection before we're about to send you a bunch of sales emails. So sorry. So there's definitely exceptions to it, but I think overall not making it look like it's a JCPenney Kohl's sales email that every single email is just like flashing lights and 70% off. And it's just like, oh my gosh, there's so much going at me. And instead keeping that like down to earth human as if the email came from a friend factor can be really cool.
And if you're on people's email lists, like start looking at their emails and you'll notice that
pay attention to
the top email marketers do plain text. Like they don't make it like a gimmicky ad.
Yep. Pay attention to what emails you open. And I think that's the final thing that I would say with this whole conversation is pay attention to what emails you open, what you read, what do the subject line, especially if you're in the season of like trying to increase your email list open rates, or you're thinking about starting an email list, start taking notes of like what subject lines catch your attention. What did the preview text say? What's included in the actual email? Is it plain text? Is it really heavily designed? Like, just start taking notes of these things. I promise, like, once you start seeing these kind of principles implemented, you'll start seeing them everywhere and start realizing like, oh wait, I actually do like storytelling, down to earth, broken up text, plain text format, really catchy like subject lines, and really straight to the point that I can read in a short bit. I promise you're going to start seeing this all come to life.
Well, we hope that was helpful and that gave you a lot of tools, even if you don't have an email list, which you should, but grace, but also you should. I hope that gave you a lot of just like ideas for kind of like psychology of what we as human beings open, what attracts our attention, what makes us read something. Because that's really at the end of the day what this is about. It's like, what can we do as business owners to get people to pay attention to our emails? So hopefully that was good. And if you liked it, please share online and tag us in stories if you love this episode. Come on and join our Heart and Hustle Facebook group community. The link will be in the show notes. And we will see you on the next episode. And we're so excited to see you on the next episode.
The easiest, smoothest outro ever. All right, we love you, friends. We will see you next week.